As I'm sure many of you already know, NASA recently announced the discovery of a number of exoplanets in the quote, habitable zone of a star using the Spitzer Space Telescope. Now, for all those of you who break into hives at the mere mention of the flat Earth and the suggestion that space is fake, particularly if you claim to believe in the Bible and reject the theory of evolution, then I would just simply implore you to listen to just a few clips of this recent press conference from NASA talking about these exoplanets, talking about why they find this quote unquote discovery so significant, and just honestly ask yourself what the obvious agenda behind all of this is. What is this all aiming towards? They tell you. It's painfully obvious to anyone who wants to stop and listen.
Months, and I've just been in awe, and I'm in awe today about both the depth and the breadth of the science that we do here. We're changing people's lives every day, and we enlarge in the space we know. We stretch our imagination, we inspire every day. And today's story is just that. I'm excited to announce today that Dr. Michael Gion and his team have used our Spitzer Space Telescope to determine that there are actually 7 Earth-sized planets orbiting the nearby TRAPPIST-1 star about 40 light years away. What's more, as you can see in this illustration, is that 3 of these planets, marked in green, are in the habitable zone, where liquid water can pool on the surface. In fact, with the right atmospheric conditions, there could be water on any of these planets. So for the first time, we found as many terrestrial planets around a single star, and that's the first time we have been able to measure, in addition to that, both the masses and the radii of these habitable zone type Earth-sized planets. These planets are among the best of all the planets we know to follow up, to see, for example, with the James Webb Space Telescope that we're going to launch last year, the atmospheres, and also to look at biosignatures if there are any. The discovery gives us a hint that finding a second Earth is not just a matter of if, but when. Scientists believe, actually, that around every star there could be 1 planet. Take 3, take 5, take 7, and you can just imagine how many worlds are out there that have a shot to becoming a habitable ecosystem that we could explore. And what we really have in this story is a major step forward towards answering one of these very questions that are at the heart of so many of our philosophers, of what we're thinking about when we're by ourselves, and that basically is, are we alone out there? We're making a step forward with this, a leap forward, in fact, towards answering that question, and I'm really excited for you to hear about it now.
Goldilocks zones where liquid water could exist is the most likely to exist at the surface of a rocky planet. Having 3 of these Earth-sized planets in this habitable zone is very promising for the search for life beyond our solar system.
So what can you tell us about these distant planets?
Well, we have measured with Spitzer very precisely their sizes. And furthermore, we have, thanks to Spitzer 2, preliminary measurements of their masses for 6 of them. And for 1 of them, our measurement is precise enough to strongly suggest a water-rich composition, which is very exciting because this is one of the planets in the habitable zone.
Felicia, I'd first like to say that my opinion, this is the most exciting discovery we've had yet with Spitzer in its almost 14 years of operation. Now, TRAPPIST-1 is an ultra-cooled dwarf, and that means that it's much brighter in the infrared, thousands of times brighter in the infrared than in the visible. So it makes it ideal to use Spitzer, which is an infrared telescope, to do the follow-up on this system. And then as you can see in this animation of Spitzer, so Spitzer was launched in 2003, and it was never intended to study exoplanets. So we had to do some clever re-engineering why it's in space still, and it's more than an astronomical unit away from the Earth, so you can't fly out and do anything about it. But we did clever engineering on the ground to allow Spitzer to measure star brightnesses very precisely, 1,000 times more precisely than we had imagined Spitzer would be able to do. And then what we're going to show in the next animation is how when Spitzer sees the planets very similar to the way the Kepler Space Telescope does it. We don't image the individual planets. What we do is the planets pass in front of the star. We see the amount of light that star is dimmed by when that planet is blocking it. So the dips you see in this animation are the planets going in front of the star, blocking a little bit of the light. The size of the dip tells you the size of the planet, so we can get the size of the planet directly from measuring the dip. Now, when you see the different planets, they keep orbiting around, and every time they transit, you can measure the spacing between the transits, and that tells you about the orbit, the period of the orbit, how long that year is, and for that planet. And then when we know how long it takes for the planet to go around the star, we also know the distance it is from the star, and that also tells us whether or not it's in the habitable zone. Now, the TRAPPIST-1 system and its planets are in an interesting configuration. The planets are all very close together, and their orbits are spaced such that they gravitationally interact with each other. They tug and pull each other as they go flying around, orbiting around their star. And what that does is it changes the timing of the transits a little bit as the planets are tugging each other, so they don't happen as regularly as you would expect without the tug. And with that, measuring those differences, what we're able to do is measure the masses of the planet. So now we have the mass of the planet, the size of the planet, so we can make an estimate of what the density of the planet is. And that's important because that gives us some understanding about what the composition of the planet is. From that, we can tell where the planets are, whether they're rocky, gaseous, or even watery.
Yeah, so the atmospheres of planets tell us a great deal about the formation and evolution of planets, about the formation and evolution of planets, about the formation and evolution of planets in these potentially habitable worlds.
3 worlds in the habitable zone.
Or of the habitable zone of the TRAPPIST-1 system. But the habitable zone indicated here in this blue planet in the habitable zone is...
Well, with this discovery, we've made a giant accelerated leap forward in the search for habitable worlds and life on other worlds, potentially speaking. So for now, we just speculate. So for now, we just speculate. I'm so excited to be here today to share it with you, because with this amazing system, we know that there must be many more potentially life-bearing worlds out there just waiting to be found. The right temperature to support liquid water and life as we know it. In fact, we're even going to use the James Webb to search for gases that don't belong, that might be produced by life.
Planets in the habitable zone. So often when I go to bed at night and really imagine how these other worlds really look like. The fact that there are worlds out there just like the Earth that have some commonalities with the Earth, and you could imagine these worlds. It's just only happening right now. These questions about are we alone are being answered as we speak in this decade and the next decades. So I'm really excited about this. You could imagine these worlds. You could imagine these worlds. You could imagine these worlds.
Weishaupt, the founder of the Illuminati, said, "The most wonderful thing of all is that the distinguished Lutheran and Calvinist theologians who belong to our order really believe that they see in it," that's the Illuminati, "the true and genuine sense of Christian religion. O mortal man, is there anything you cannot be made to believe?" It was all a hoax, and many Christians, people claiming to be Christians, fell right in line and started getting into this. There are Christians today in some of these groups that really think that's going to be good for the world. They're going to find out they're working for Satan after it's too late.
You could imagine these worlds. You could imagine these worlds